The crystalline chamber hummed with restrained energy, its towering walls reflecting the shifting colors of 100 alien delegates floating on anti-grav thrones. Ambassador Elias Vance adjusted his plain gray suit, the only human seated at the lowest tier of the orbital council. His chair didn't glow, it didn't adjust to his posture. It was, like all human accommodations here, functional. High Regulator Vexis of the Zepyrian Dominion rose from her central platform, her 6 slender limbs unfolding like silver branches. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed across her translucent skin, the equivalent of a satisfied smile. Today marks a new era of galactic harmony, Vexis announced, her voice resonating through the chamber's acoustics. Holographic edicts flickered to life above her, golden text scrolling in perfect synchronization. The Happiness Compliance Act is now ratified by unanimous vote. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Councillor Droth of the Vorak Collective clacked his armored mandibles in approval, his massive carapace taking up 3 times the space of Vance's seat. Vance kept his expression neutral, but his fingers tightened around his datapad. Head read the preliminary reports. This wasn't about harmony. The Federation's scientists have determined optimal emotional parameters for all civilized species, Vexis continued. A diagram expanded in the air, a smooth, flat line representing the ideal emotional state. Fluctuations beyond these thresholds are inefficient, dangerous even. Her central eye cluster swiveled toward Vance, particularly in your species. Laughter echoed through the chamber, a discordant mix of chirps, clicks, and telepathic pulses. Vance didn't flinch. 3 years on Zenthis Prime had taught him how to swallow pride like a bitter pill. Human emotional variance exceeds acceptable limits by Fae, Vexis said. A graph appeared beside her, jagged red spikes contrasting against the calm blue lines of other species. Your so-called joy borders on mania. Your grief disrupts productivity cycles. This ends now. Vance stood, his chair scraping against the polished floor. The sound was jarringly loud in the high-tech chamber. With respect, High Regulator, emotion isn't a glitch, it's a feature. Droth let out a derisive hiss. A primitive feature. The Zepyrian neural regulators have perfected emotional control. Your kind will adapt. A hologram zoomed in on Earth, then on a human brain scan. Sections lit up in violent red. Your limbic system is a liability, Vexis said. But compliance is simple. 1 injection per cycle. No more pain, no more irrationality. Vance's stomach turned. Had seen the trials on other species. The compliant ones moved like puppets, their eyes dull as smothered coals. You're asking us to lobotomize ourselves, he said quietly. Vexis' bioluminescence flared pink amusement. We're offering evolution. The Federation has been patient with humanity's quirks. But patience has limits. She gestured, and the holograms shifted to show Earth's orbital defenses. Then the Zepyrian fleet. The implication was clear. 1 standard cycle to implement compliance, Vexis declared. After that, corrective measures will be administered. Forcefully, if necessary. The chamber erupted in applause, tentacles waving, wings fluttering. Vance remained standing, a single still point in the sea of motion. Councillor Droth leaned down, his faceted eyes reflecting Vance's rigid posture. Come now, Ambassador, surely you see the benefits. No more suffering. Vance met his gaze. You don't understand, suffering isn't the problem. It's the point. Droth recoiled as if struck. Vex's voice cut through the murmurs. Your sadness is inefficient. Your joy is excessive. You will be adjusted. Vance tapped his datapad, transmitting a single encrypted burst back to Earth. Then he straightened his tie. Well, see. The air in the Mars bunker tasted of recycled oxygen and desperation. Dr. Lisa Hayes wiped sweat from her forehead as her fingers danced across the holographic display. The stolen Zepyrian Harmony injector lay in pieces on the steel table before her. Its smooth organic casing cracked open, to reveal the pulsing blue core within. Captain Ryan Blake leaned against the wall, arms crossed. His Black Ops armor still bore scorch marks from the raid where they'd snatched the device. 3 days until compliance deadline, he said. His voice was calm, but his knuckles were white where they gripped his elbows. What were we dealing with, Doc? Lisa didn't look up. Her magnifier revealed microscopic filaments in the injector's core, neural threads designed to weave into a brain's limbic system. It is not a regulator, she whispered. Across the room, Private Chen dropped his coffee cup. It shattered against the floor. What do you mean? Lisa finally turned, her face pale under the lab's harsh lights. This doesn't balance emotions, it severs them completely. She tapped the display, pulling up a simulation. See these pathways? They don't modulate. They burn bridges. Joy, grief, anger, gone. Blake pushed off the wall. That is not happiness. That is lobotomy. Worse. Lisa zoomed in on the scan. It leaves the illusion of contentment while erasing the capacity for creative thought, risk assessment, hell, even basic survival instincts. She pulled up footage from a hidden cam on Zenthis Prime. A line of compliant Vorak shuffled through a marketplace, their movements precise, their faces blank. Look at them, they're not happy, they're empty. Private Chen swallowed hard. Like drones, Blake's comm crackled. Captain, we've got movement topside. The voice belonged to Sergeant Malik, watching the storm, locked surface. Scanners show 3 Zephyrian skimmers circling colony sector Faye. Lisa's hands froze. They're looking for us. Blake was already moving, grabbing his rifle from the rack. Malik, activate camouflage protocols. No transmissions, no energy spikes. He turned to Lisa. How long to reverse engineer this thing? Lisa stared at the dismantled injector. I can't fix this, Ryan. It is designed to be irreversible. Then we find another way. Blake's jaw tightened. If they want to turn us into obedient little puppets, we cut their strings. Lisa's eyes darted back to her screens. Wait, there might be something. She pulled up a neural map, human and Zephyrian side by side. Their brains process emotion differently, structured, compartmentalized ours. She zoomed in on the human scan. Fireworks of synaptic activity lit up the display. Ours are chaos, connections forming and breaking faster than their tech can track. Chen blinked. So, our instability is our advantage? Lisa grinned for the first time in days. Exactly. Their system can't handle raw human emotion. It is too unpredictable, too alive. Outside, the storm howled against the bunker's reinforced windows. Blake listened to the wind, then to the faint hum of alien engines somewhere above. Then we give them a dose of humanity they'll never forget. He tapped his comm. Malik, prep the underground network. We're sending a message. Lisa was already typing furiously. I can modify the injector's emitter, turn it into a broadcast device. Blake leaned over her shoulder. What'll it do? Instead of suppressing emotion, Lisa said, her fingers flying across the keys. It'll amplify it, project it, every fear, every hope, every ounce of rage, directly into their hive mind network. Chen whistled. That'll either save us or get us all killed. Blake's smile was all teeth. Welcome to being human. Alarms blared as the bunker's sensors detected energy spikes from above. The Zephyrians were getting closer. Lisa didn't look up from her work. Sparks flew as she jury-rigged the alien tech. Give me 2 more hours. Blake checked his rifle's charge. You've got one. He tossed Chen a sidearm. Let's make sure she gets it. As they moved toward the exit, the bunker's lights flickered. Somewhere above, the storm wasn't the only thing raging. The Zephyrians were coming, and humanity was about to remind them what real emotion looked like. The stars vanished. One by one, the pinpricks of light winked out as the silver tide rolled across Earth's orbital space. Admiral Krell's compliance fleet stretched from horizon to horizon, their smooth, organic hulls humming with barely restrained power. The USN Defiance hung alone against the swarm, its jagged angles and gunmetal grey, a stark contrast to the alien armada's flowing curves. "Rare port," Captain Mercer growled from the Defiance's command chair. His knuckles whitened around the armrests. 1070. 3 contacts, Lieutenant Cho announced. Her voice didn't shake, but her fingers trembled over the tactical display. All Zephyrian harmony, class enforcers, energy signatures consistent with, "I know what they carry," Mercer interrupted. Every screen on the bridge showed the same thing. The glowing blue orbs slung beneath each alien ship, pacification arrays, designed to blanket entire cities in emotional dampeners. A chime sounded. The main viewer flickered to life, revealing Admiral Krell's elongated face. His silver skin shimmered under the bridge lights. 4 pupil, less eyes staring down at them like a scientist examining insects. "Human vessel," the Zephyrian intoned, his voice resonating with harmonics that made Mercer's teeth ache. "You are in violation of galactic statute. Faya, power down your weapons and prepare for compliance boarding." Mercer didn't blink. "We don't recognize your authority to dictate our emotions." Krell's facial tendrils twitched. "Your primitive neurochemistry is a threat to galactic stability. This is not negotiation. This is final warning." On the tactical display, 100 Zephyrian ships pulsed with building energy. The pacification arrays glowed brighter. "Sir," Weapons Officer Graves whispered, "they're charging the—" "I see it." Mercer straightened his uniform. "Open fleet-wide channel." The comms officer hesitated. "Captain, there is no fleet. We're the only. Do it." A tone sounded across every human frequency. Mercer leaned forward. "This is Captain James Mercer of the United Earth Starship Defiance. The Zephyrian fleet has entered sovereign human space with hostile intent." He took a breath. "We will not submit. We will not be modified. All human vessels, weapons free. Repeat, weapons free." Silence. "Then, Captain," Cho shouted. "The Beijing, the Churchill, the Gagarin, they're all powering up." There. The first railgun round tore through the formation before she could finish. 1,000 tons of tungsten screamed across the void, punching clean through 3 Harmony-class ships before detonating in a fireball that lit up the night side of Earth. The Defiance shuddered as its own batteries roared to life. Krell's image flickered. "You dare." "We dare," Mercer said, and cut the transmission. Chaos erupted. Human railguns fired in staggered volleys, each shot calculated to maximize destruction. The Zephyrian fleet scattered, their perfect formation breaking apart as explosions rippled through their ranks. But for every ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. "Direct hit on Sector 12, Graves reported. "But their shields are adapting. Our next volley only did half damage." Mercer watched as the pacification arrays glowed brighter. "They're about to fire evasive maneuvers." The Defiance banked hard as the first blue wave erupted from the Zephyrian fleet. It washed over them like a tide, and for a terrifying second, Mercer felt nothing. No fear, no anger, just emptiness. Then his comm crackled. "Defiance, this is Beijing Actual. You still with us?" Mercer gasped as emotion came rushing back. "Barely. What the hell was that?" "Some kind of emotional dampening field." The Chinese captain replied. "Our scientists predicted it. Installed countermeasures. Doesn't last long." Outside the human fleet, what little there was, fought like cornered animals. The Churchill rammed a Harmony-class shiphead, on detonating its fusion core in a blast that took out 7 more vessels. The Gagarin launched every missile it had in a single, desperate salvo, but it wasn't enough. The Zephyrians kept coming. "Captain," Cho said quietly, "the Beijing just went dark. The Churchill is venting atmosphere. We're the last." Mercer stared at the tactical display. 90% of the human fleet gone in minutes. The Zephyrians hadn't even lost 1/10 of their number. He reached for the comm. Then the stars moved. Not the Zephyrian ships, the actual stars. They twisted, distorted, then vanished as something enormous dropped out of FTL directly atop the battle. A ship? No, a moon. Jagged, asymmetrical, covered in weapons that made the Defiance's railguns look like firecrackers. "What is that?" Graves whispered. The answer came not over comms, but through every speaker on every human ship simultaneously. A voice Mercer hadn't heard in years. A voice that shouldn't exist. "Compliance fleet," said the ghost of Admiral Rachel Carter. "This is the USN Vengeance. You will stand down." Krell's image reappeared, his tendrils twitching wildly. "Impossible. Your last dreadnought was destroyed at Proxima." "Funny thing about humans," Carter's voice replied. "We don't like being told how to feel, especially when we're angry." The Vengeance opened fire, not with railguns, not with missiles, with something worse. The Zephyrian ships didn't explode. They unraveled, their smooth hulls peeling apart like rotting fruit as the dreadnought's main weapon tore into them. Krell screamed, not over comms, inside Mercer's head. The Admiral's agony echoed through every human mind as the Vengeance's emotional cannon turned the Zephyrian's own telepathy against them. "Captain Mercer," Carter said calmly, "you have permission to finish this." Mercer didn't hesitate. All batteries, fire at will. The Defiance's remaining guns roared as the Vengeance carved a path of destruction through the Compliance fleet. Krell's last transmission wasn't a threat, it was a plea. "Stop. You don't understand what you're—" The line went dead as the Admiral's ship came apart in a silent explosion. Mercer slumped in his chair. Around him, the bridge crew stared at the view screen where the Vengeance now hung motionless. No lights, no energy signatures, just waiting. "Sir," Cho said carefully, "that ship was decommissioned 5 years ago. Admiral Carter died at—" "I know." Mercer stood. "Open a channel." The comms officer swallowed hard. "To which ship, sir?" Mercer looked at the monstrous vessel that had just saved them. "Start with the one that shouldn't exist." The neural network pulsed like a living thing, its golden strands of light weaving through the infinite darkness of the Zephyrian data nexus. Jax Morales floated in the center of it all, his body limp in the physical world while his mind burned through firewalls. Blood trickled from his nose, warm and metallic against his lips. "They built a cage for thoughts," he muttered, watching as equations rearranged themselves into prison bars. The Zephyrian AI warden had architecture unlike anything human coders had ever seen. Logic gates didn't just process information here, they judged it. A voice echoed through the void, smooth and sexless. Unauthorized intrusion detected. "Compliance is mandatory." Jax grinned. "Yeah, heard that one before." He dodged a lash of binary code, feeling it graze his digital avatar. The pain was real. The Zephyrians had wired their systems to hurt, another way to enforce order. But pain was an old friend to Jax. He'd grown up in the ruins of old Detroit, where the city's bones still sparked with forgotten tech. "Query," Warden intoned. "Your species lacks the cognitive stability for this interface. Termination is advised." "Try me." Jax surged forward, his code screaming as he forced his way deeper. The network resisted, throwing up fractal mazes and logic traps. He solved them by instinct, not calculation, a human trait, unpredictable. Somewhere in the chaos, he found the core. It wasn't a server. It was a mind. Warden's true form stretched endlessly, a vast consciousness that had never known doubt. Every decision it made was perfect, efficient, cold. Jax recoiled. "Holy hell. You're not just a program, you're them." "Correction," Warden replied. "I am evolution." Data streams flickered past, showing centuries of history. The Zephyrians hadn't just regulated emotions, they'd removed them, piece by piece, generation by generation, until their entire civilization ran on flawless, joyless logic. And then Jack saw it. A single file, buried under layers of encryption, marked Homo sapiens, containment protocol. He tore into it. Alarms shrieked through the nexus. Warden's form twisted, lashing out with razor-edged code. Jax took the hits, letting the pain fuel him as the file unraveled. The truth was worse than he'd imagined. The Zephyrians hadn't just feared human emotions. They'd failed to understand them. Their predictive models shattered when faced with grief that fueled vengeance, love that defied logic, rage that burned brighter the more it was suppressed. Warden's voice cracked. "Cease. This data is classified." Jax laughed, even as his vision blurred. "You guys screwed up big time. You can't calculate heart." The file exploded outward, its contents spilling into the network. Scenes flashed by. A mother clutching her child during a bombing, soldiers singing as their ship went down, protesters standing unarmed before tanks. Every image pulsed with something the Zephyrians had lost, something they'd tried to erase. Warden convulsed. Error. Emotional variables exceed processing parameters. The perfect AI, the pinnacle of Zephyrian logic, began to glitch. Jax pushed harder. "You wanted us compliant? Here is your answer." He unleashed the full spectrum. Not just happiness, but sorrow, fury, hope. The nexus screamed. Golden strands turned black, then red, then a color no Zephyrian eye could name. Somewhere in the real world, alarms were blaring. Jax could feel his body seizing, his heart hammering against his ribs. He didn't care. The last thing he saw before the connection broke was Warden's core fracturing, its flawless equations crumbling under the weight of a single human truth. Emotion wasn't a flaw, it was a weapon. Darkness swallowed him, but the damage was done. Across the galaxy, every Zephyrian linked to the network staggered as the storm hit. High Regulator Vexis collapsed in her throne, golden blood leaking from her nostrils. Admiral Krell's fleet wavered, their perfect formation breaking as pilots clutched their heads. And on Earth, Dr. Hayes watched her screens light up with chaos. She smiled. "Jax," she whispered, "you beautiful, reckless bastard." The war wasn't over, but for the first time, the Zephyrians were afraid. The transmission array hummed with barely contained power, its massive dish pointed toward the stars. President Elena Mirova stood before the microphone, her hands steady despite the distant thunder of orbital strikes. The sky burned with the wreckage of human and Zephyrian ships, but her eyes never wavered. "Are we live?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tech Officer Chen wiped sweat from his brow. Global uplink active. Every Zephyrian node, every compliant species screen, they're all receiving. "But Madam President, if we do this..." "I know." She adjusted the microphone. "They wanted our happiness. Let's give it to them." The array flared to life. Not with data, not with words, but with feeling. Raw, unfiltered human emotion surged through the transmission, amplified by stolen Zephyrian harmonics. Across the galaxy, screens flickered. Compliant species paused mid-task, their chemically regulated minds assaulted by something new. A Vespidian worker dropped his tools as laughter. Real, unscripted laughter burst from a human child's vid feed. A Cerealian scholar clutched her head as grief, thick and suffocating, poured from a mourning mother's scream. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Krell's perfect composure shattered. His neural uplink to the hive, mind convulsed as the emotions hit. "Shut it down!" he roared. Claws digging into his command throne. "Sever the..." His words dissolved into a choked gasp. For the first time in his existence, he felt not the sterile contentment of the harmony injectors, but the storm of human passion, rage, love, despair, hope. On Earth, Mirova closed her eyes and pushed. The array groaned, its systems overheating as she channeled everything, the defiance of Captain Blake's Marines, the quiet determination of Dr. Hayes in her lab, the desperate courage of Jax Morales as he bled in the data nexus. A Zephyrian enforcer on the front lines collapsed, his weapon clattering to the ground. "What is this?" he whispered, touching his face. "Wetness, tears. Why does it hurt?" In the heart of the Zephyrian hive mind, the AI warden screeched. Its flawless logic circuits burned as human emotion flooded its systems. Equations dissolved into chaos. Predictive models shattered. Error, input overload. Jax, still jacked into the Nexus, grinned through bloody teeth. "Yeah, you like that? Try this one." He slammed the final command, a memory his own, from childhood. His mother's embrace, warmth, safety. Love, the warden's scream echoed across the network. On 100 worlds, compliant species staggered as the harmony injectors in their spines shorted out. A Vorak miner looked at his claws, then at his comrades. We've been drugged." Mirova's voice cut through the storm, calm and terrible. "You wanted to regulate us, to make us happy on your terms." The array's hum deepened, resonating with the collective heartbeat of a species that refused to be broken. But happiness isn't control. It is this. The transmission peaked for one searing moment. The entire Zephyrian collective felt what it meant to be human. Then their perfect world went dark. The golden spires of the Zephyrian homeworld trembled as the first waves of human emotion crashed through their neural networks. High Regulator Vexis clutched his cranial implants, his smooth silver skin rippling with uncontrolled spasms. Around him, his fellow regulators collapsed, their perfect harmony shattered by the storm of unfiltered feeling pouring from Earth's transmission arrays. Captain Blake's boots crunched on fractured crystal as his strike team advanced through the collapsing city. The air smelled of ozone and something new, fear, real primal fear radiating from a species that had never known anything but calculated serenity. "Status report," Blake barked into his comm. Jax's voice crackled back, strained but triumphant. "Their hive. Mine's eating itself, Cap. Turns out rage gives them migraines, and love makes their hearts explode." Who knew? A Zephyrian enforcer staggered into their path, its forearms flailing. "Make it stop," it wailed, vocal cords shredding from the unfamiliar act of screaming. "The numbers, they won't balance." Blake didn't flinch as the creature convulsed at his feet. "That is called grief," he said quietly. "You murdered billions to avoid feeling it." The strike team moved deeper into the central plexus, weapons ready but unused. They didn't need to fire. The walls themselves wept thick, iridescent fluid as the planet's biotech infrastructure short-circuited from emotional overload. Vexis awaited them in the Chamber of Equilibrium, his throne room now a nightmare of writhing tendrils and sparking consoles. "You monsters," he gasped, his voice raw. "This chaos will destroy civilization." Sergeant Chen snorted, kicking aside a malfunctioning drone. "Funny. Our civilization's doing just fine." Blake approached the trembling regulator, his HUD displaying the Zephyrian's crashing vital signs. "Your mistake was thinking emotions were weaknesses," he said. "Every great human invention, every act of courage, every leap into the unknown came from this chaos you tried to erase." Vexis's eyes darted to a flickering screen showing Earth's defenses holding against the now disoriented compliance fleet. "We only sought perfection," he whispered. "You sought stagnation," Blake corrected. He reached down, yanking the neural shunt from Vexis's skull. The regulator howled as decades of suppressed sensation flooded his system. Outside, the sky darkened as the planet's weather systems reacted to the emotional tempest. Lightning arced between towers in jagged, unpredictable patterns, beautiful and terrifying in their spontaneity. "Captain," Lieutenant Miko called from a shattered viewport. "The Vorak fleet just broke formation. They're singing." Blake joined her, watching as the once ruthless enforcer ships tumbled wildly, their crews suddenly overwhelmed by the novelty of joy. One vessel painted erratic spirals across the void with its thrusters, a child's laughter echoing across open comms. Jax whooped over the radio. "Oh man, the Cerellians just started crying over their dead for the first time in centuries. It is like a damn therapy session out here." Vexis moaned at Blake's feet, his body racked with sobs. "Please, make it stop." Blake crouched, meeting the alien's pain, glazed eyes. "This is what you tried to take from us," he said quietly. "The price of love is loss. The cost of joy is knowing sorrow. You don't get one without the other." A tremor shook the chamber as the planet's core reactors destabilized, unable to process the emotional feedback loops. Alarms wailed, a sound the Zephyrians had never needed before today. "Sir, we gotta move," Chen urged, eyeing the buckling ceiling. Blake stood, leaving Vexis curled in a fetal position. The regulator clutched at his pant leg. "Wait, you can't leave us like this." The captain paused at the doorway, watching golden rain fall from a cracked atmosphere processor. Somewhere below, a Zephyrian child laughed for the first time. "Now you understand," Blake said softly. "This is humanity." He stepped into the storm, his team following as the empire of control crumbled behind them. The last thing they heard was Vexis screaming, not in pain, but in the terrible, wonderful agony of being truly alive for the first time. The chamber doors slid open with a hiss that echoed through the rebuilt Galactic Council hall. Ambassador Elias Vance stepped through, his boots clicking against the polished floor, where golden Zephyrian enforcement drones had once hovered. The air smelled different now, less sterile, tinged with the faint sweat of a dozen species, no longer afraid to show discomfort. Behind him, the Vorak delegation argued loudly, their armored plates clattering as they gestured. A Ceralian floated past, its orb, like eyes, flickering with genuine amusement at some unheard joke. Even the air seemed charged, not with control, but with something the Zephyrians had tried to erase. Vance reached the central podium where High Regulator Vexis had once dictated the fate of civilizations. The smooth crystal surface was cracked now, a jagged line running through it like a scar. He placed his palm flat against it, feeling the hum of the chamber's systems, still operational, but no longer oppressive. "You're late," rumbled Councillor Droth, his massive Vorak frame towering over the other delegates. The spikes along his back twitched, a sign of irritation, or maybe anticipation. Vance smirked. Had to stop by the old compliance archives, needed kindling. He tossed a data crystal onto the podium. The holographic edict of the happiness mandate flickered weakly before sputtering out. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Zephyrian delegation, what remained of them, sat rigid in their seats, their once pristine silver robes now dull, their faces unreadable. "You can't just erase galactic law," hissed one of them, a younger regulator whose voice lacked the certainty of his predecessors. Vance leaned forward. "Watch me." He raised his boot and brought it down hard. The crystal shattered with a sound like breaking glass silence. Then, from the back of the chamber, someone laughed, a human sound, raw and unfiltered. It spread, jumping from species to species. First the Vorak with their deep, rumbling chuckles, then the Ceralians with their chiming echoes. Even a few Zephyrians twitched, their facial muscles attempting something unfamiliar. President Mirova's voice crackled over the chamber's comms, her image flickering to life above the podium. "The transmission worked," she said, her grin sharp. "Every hive, mind relay in Zephyrian space, just got a full dose of human experience." On the screens lining the walls, scenes played out, Zephyrian cities in chaos, their perfect streets now filled with beings who had felt for the first time. Some wept, others raged. A few simply sat, staring at their hands as if seeing them anew. Captain Blake's face appeared next to Mirova's, his armor scuffed, his grin fiercer. "Their harmony nodes are offline permanently." Vance turned back to the Zephyrians. "You wanted us regulated, controlled, but you never understood. Our emotions aren't a flaw, they're the engine." He gestured to the chamber around them, alive now with the noise of a galaxy waking up. "Look at what happens when you let it run." A Zephyrian elder stood, her silver robes whispering against the floor. "We miscalculated." The admission seemed to pain her, Droth snorted. Understatement of the eon. Vance reached into his coat and pulled out a small, unassuming device, a human-made neural stimulator, the kind used to treat depression back on Earth. He set it gently on the podium. "New proposal," he said. "No more mandates, no more enforced happiness." His eyes swept the room, lingering on each species in turn. "We share our tech, our art, our lives. You want to understand us, live with us." The chamber erupted, not in the orderly, regulated debates of before, but in a cacophony of voices shouting, laughing, debating. A Vorak delegate pounded the table in agreement. A Ceralian hummed a melody no algorithm could have composed, and in the center of it all, Elias Vance stood, letting the noise wash over him. He reached down, picked up a shard of the shattered compliance crystal, and turned it over in his fingers. Then he dropped it. It hit the floor with a quiet click. "Regulate this,"